Okay. Okay. Good evening, everybody. Happy. Oh, actually, shoot. It's kind of sort of Friday night, and the feeling's right. Gonna have some fun, show you how it's done. June 2024 edition McAgee3 Meetup. What's up, everybody? Happy Friday to each and every one of you. Welcome to our, as I mentioned, June 2024 edition of McAgee3 Meetup. My guest tonight is a wonderful, wonderful artist as well as a wonderful, wonderful person. She is the author, illustrator, and creator of the Night and Day comic book, which you can find online. I would like to introduce you all to Velise Strong. How are you doing today, Madame?
For you.
I'm doing fine, thank you. I'm just gonna bump this up just a little bit more. There we go. All right, so with all my artistic guests, I always try to do an art stream, and this will be no different. Valise is currently working on a commission, so she will be doing that while we work on our own stuff as well. So as we're getting started, getting things underway, Valise, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so where do I start? I am 33, 34 years old. I forget at this point. um, I graduated from the Art Institute of Atlanta doing animation,
Oh wow,
um,
interesting.
media arts and design.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a fun ride. I've been working on my comic since 2010, I
Mm-hmm.
think. And I've been in the business since 2008, I think. I
Mm-hmm.
lose track of all this stuff. So it's hard to have an intro for myself. I'm sorry.
Oh no, it's fine. You're right now. You're doing fantastic. Please continue.
Yeah, I've had the dream of being an animator and an artist and an illustrator ever since I was really small. I picked up a lipstick from my mom and I drew all over the walls.
Nice.
And I was probably about 3 years old at that point, and I decided this is what I want to do for the rest of my life.
Well, that sounds like a winner.
So,
Go ahead.
so yeah, that's my origin story,
Mm-hmm.
being a toddler and drawing on the walls. And I drew on the walls constantly as a kid. I
Mm-hmm.
was a terrible child.
You.
I constantly drew on my walls, and
Mm-hmm.
it was a problem.
I don't think it was a problem. I mean, considering, I mean, hindsight being 2020, I think you did just fine. In all honesty. But
I mean, the walls are worth money now. I'm just kidding.
let's see here. So
So,
so you've been drawing since you were little. Um, so we'll put it like this. You've been doodling on surfaces since you were little. Um, so when it came to like just drawing, was it literally just you just kept doodling over time, or do you recall of like some type of catalyst, something that you might have seen or heard that really just kind of set your mind to like, yes, this is exactly what I want to do. Like maybe it was like another artist you
right,
saw,
right.
maybe it was like a cartoon you probably saw, a celebrity. Like, what was? Do you recall what the exact catalyst was? Going a little bit more precision here.
Right. So, when I was little, I always found solace in picking up a pencil.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was still very impressionable, very young, there was something called Vault Disney, that came on really late at night
Mm-hmm.
on the Disney Channel, and I would stay up really late and just watch Vault Disney. And Vault Disney was a bunch of old school animations um, from animators that had been in Disney, and a bunch of behind the scenes of, Walt Disney talking and things like that. And I
Mm-hmm.
would watch this stuff and I was so inspired. So I got really inspired to become an animator because of Walt Disney
Mm-hmm.
and just seeing that stuff on there, like the animations that a lot of people don't know about.
Mm-hmm.
They super inspired me. And then when I was also very little, I watched, a lot of people grew up with Beauty and the Beast and
Mm-hmm.
Lion King, right?
Right.
And I saw those things and I said, that's what I want to do. And one of the animators for example, Beauty and the Beast
Mm-hmm.
was Glenn Keane,
Mm-hmm.
and he he did most of the keyframes for the animation in, for example, Beauty and the Beast. He did a lot of other stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but what really sticks out to me is the keyframes he did for Beauty and the Beast. And I said, that's it. That's it right there. That's what I want. I'm going to do it. But with the way the economy is and the way studios are right now,
Mm-hmm.
they're not hiring a whole bunch of animators.
Right.
So I have made a fairly good business of being a freelance animator. And right now, I am working on a documentary piece for a private investor, and
Mm-hmm.
it's been going really well. So I am still living the dream, but it's not exactly how I imagined it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I imagined being in a studio with
Mm-hmm.
other animators working on a big film,
Mm-hmm.
but I am still doing what I dreamed of doing, which is animating, but I'm just doing it for my own self, my
Right.
own business, for private investors.
Mm-hmm. And
So it's
and
been,
okay, go ahead, go ahead, continue. I'm sorry.
no, go ahead. I'm just filling up space.
Oh, so let's go to the animations that inspired you from Vault Disney that you spoke of. Were there any like standouts, ones that kind of stuck out to you more than some of the others? Because I know all of them as a collective motivated you to where you're at now. But were there any ones in particular that were just a little bit more of the Velise top five type of category, so to speak?
Wow, that's an interesting question. It's been so long since I've seen it, I've kind of lost touch with those memories. But
Mm-hmm.
I just remember the different animations standing out to me. So there was this one that was about a lonely house. This house was, first off, it started in the country
Mm-hmm.
and it had a wonderful family that owned it. And then progress came around it
Mm-hmm.
and the city built up around it. And it found itself in the middle of the big city and it tried to stay strong and positive
Mm-hmm.
while everybody, all these buildings, like they were, what do you call it? They were humanized. That's
Mm-hmm.
not the right word for it, but you know what I'm saying.
They were sentient.
And anthropomorphized,
Okay,
I
okay,
think
okay.
is
So kind of like the brave little toaster, right?
right. Oh my gosh, speaking of the Brave Little Toaster, let's just go on that for a second.
Okay.
The Brave Little Toaster was an incredible film, animation wise
Mm-hmm.
and
And narrative.
story wise.
Yeah.
The narrative on it. Do you remember the Brave Little Toaster?
I do. Like I remember how with the toaster and all the other appliances that lost their way from the guy that owned them, like it did a really good job of giving like this sense of despair when
Oh my god.
like good lord, it's like it's definitely in that category of this was this made for kids, question mark, you know, because it just
Hey,
such heavy, just a heavy narrative, right, of just being discarded from, like, you know, from what you're familiar with, and having to essentially just brave the elements to find your way back home, so to speak, right? Like I remember, oh my
uh,
gosh, oof.
yeah, the Brave Little Toaster was a lot darker than kids were really needing in their life. I don't know what the animators and the directors were thinking,
Mhm.
but that stuff was really dark.
Yeah.
I I remember it fondly,
Mhm.
but then when I went to go show it to my son,
Mhm.
I was just watching it and thinking, "Oh my gosh, this is dark."
Oh man. Oh
It was
gosh.
it was so dark.
Yeah, it's like, cuz I'll be real with you, like a part of me feels like that there might have been a version of that where they don't make it, because
Yeah,
the way, you know, the way things kind of panned out and how things kind of ended up, I almost feel like at some point maybe it was like, maybe it was just on the cutting board floor, that there was probably an ending where just they all got turned to scrap, and they just couldn't make it back to their original owner. But instead we ended up with the ending we did have, where it's like dude bro rediscovers all of them, refurbishes all of them, and shows that, hey, these things still work, you know. So we did get a happy ending after all, but oh my gosh, man, that ugh.
yeah. So that's one of the things that inspired me as well.
Mm-hmm.
The animation for it was,
Isn't
I'm not
that
gonna say,
wasn't that Bluth,
yeah,
right?
I think it was. Let's look it up real quick. I'm gonna look it up real quick, so
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah, I think that
misquoting
was.
something.
I'm blanking on his first name, but it's definitely Bluth, because he also did
John John Bluth. John
yeah,
Bluth.
yeah, because he also did the I'm blanking on everything now. The one about the mouse. Um, dang it, I'm so bad. I'm so sorry. I'm usually better about these sorts of things. Um,
Oh, that's fine. We're both just throwing it out there.
mm-hmm.
All right, so the concept and financing the film rights to The Brave Little Toaster, the original novel by Thomas M. Dish.
Okay.
Let's see, where did the animation come from? It's not giving me that. Let's see. Hyper Pictures and the Kushner Lock Company. I've never heard of them.
Oh, okay.
Cal Arts graduates. So
Hmm.
people that graduated from Cal Arts
Mm-hmm.
did a lot of the art for it. Um,
Yeah, cause
including some of the original members of Pixar.
right, cause
Which that's
cause I
interesting.
think, cause like my memory just feels like, you know, a lot of the animation styles were kind of similar to John Bluth joint, but it is possible
Yeah,
it was probably
yeah.
just somebody else or somebody's else, that sort of stuff.
Which is, it's really strange because it's kind of a no-name animation studio that made it,
Mm-hmm.
but it just stands out in my mind so vividly.
Yeah, cause it, I guess would it qualify as like a cult classic, perhaps?
Are we
I
still
definitely
following
think
this
it's a
guy?
cult classic. It's something that people remember and people fell in love with, and they don't necessarily know why.
Hmm.
So
So
it's, I would definitely say it's a
yeah, I would
classic
think
at this
so.
point.
Because it's cult classics are usually just, because I guess it would also be dependent on how the box office numbers did, because I feel like with cult classics, it's usually what makes it a cult classic is that like financially it was not all that great, but there was enough.
It was,
There was
yeah,
a,
it was not financially good.
right. So then,
It
but when it
it
came
was not.
to, but like there were enough people who enjoyed it to where it does still have like a following and whatnot. So
Yeah, I
and
guarantee you, you talk to anybody that was born in the 90s, um, they're going to know what Brave Little Toaster is.
and if they don't know what the Brave Little Toaster is, I apologize for their unfortunate circumstance. And
Yeah.
also, Spectre Creative, thank you for the follow. Hey, it's Edward. Love Velise. She's the best. Iconic, to be honest. Okay, thank you. I'm saying thank you on her behalf, but yeah. but uh, but okay. So you were talking about the animation about the house, and that's why my mind kind of went to the Brave Little Toaster, because I mean you've got Brave Little Toaster, you've got Up, which kind of makes the animation you were speaking of kind of makes me think about Up also, because it was kind of a similar um, story backdrop where you've got something that is in place for a long period of time, but as time rolls on around them, and but they're still there, and so I was like, oh, okay, okay. So let's see. But that clown in the Brave Little Toaster was terrifying to me as a kid. Yeah,
Oh my
between
gosh. All right. And also, for
yeah.
some reason, the the moment where the vacuum cleaner starts sucking up his own cord, do you
Mm,
remember that part?
I,
That terrified me. I was afraid of vacuum cleaners for the rest of my life.
yeah.
I
Uh,
don't know why.
I think that the one that got me mainly was the grinder, where it looked like a big
Oh
monster and
my
it was just
god.
eating everything. That's the part that I remember the most from it.
There were so many scary parts of that movie. I don't
Right.
know why they thought that was okay for kids, because it feels like now as an adult looking back on it, they were trying to be terrifying.
I guess
That,
maybe it was because of the era. Well, because it's like that's like what the '90s, late '80s, early '90s, right? Roughly.
I,
Um, because I think that was during the era where animation was still pretty avant-garde, and they could, still obviously like there was some amount of like censorship within animation during that time, but you still had a few uh, animation houses out there that would like push the envelope. Like, how far could they go without like, you know, getting the censorship board like knocking down their door? And cause cause like I'm sure you know, but originally animation was not meant for children. It was meant for adults. Um,
that's where it started, yes.
yeah, and it dates back to like the early days where little animations would play before like a movie, because it would be played in movie theaters, and it was like what you had, like what freaking like Steamboat Willie, um and then like later on you would have like Bugs Bunny would enter the picture once the animators would break off from Disney and start Looney Tunes, um Merry Melodies, essentially what we would now know as like the WB Warner Brothers characters. And yeah, and like in a lot of ways it's like um
You also
let
had Fritz the cat. Do you
mm,
remember that?
say again.
Fritz the cat. Fritz.
Yes, I do remember Fritz the cat. As a matter of fact, my wife and I actually watched a content creator who did a video about Fritz the cat, and that is definitely one of those, like, that was one of those ones where it's like censorship. What censorship?
Yeah, they went full throttle with it. They did not care. They were not scared.
No,
They
not at
just
all.
said, this is what we want to do, and they did it.
Yeah,
Which I think is,
because it was like what,
I think
drugs
great.
and sex and like all that stuff.
It was a lot of avant-garde type humor.
Hmm. And then like what else? There's a whole bunch of stuff. Then you have like so you mentioned
Remember
that
Cool World?
Cool World. That's another one. Um, that was definitely in the '90s. Um, you had, oh my gosh, I had it and then I lost it. I feel so bad. But yeah, but like the general idea is that let's see here, they had to have been because it was like Wes Craven's People Under the Stairs meets Doug. but um, but yeah, so it's like even to this day, it's like you do have your animations that either push the envelope or they just throw the envelope in the trash. Like
Yeah.
like more some recent stuff within like the last 10-15 years, I'll say, if you can call that recent. Metalocalypse. Um,
Absolutely.
you have stuff like that. Like a lot of the stuff on Adult Swim. But I'm gonna lean more towards like ones that actually did more traditional animation. So probably so if anything, I'd probably say Venture Brothers would probably be a better example in that regard.
Venture Brothers had incredible animation. They had an incredible story. They did a lot that I can really truly appreciate.
Right, like because it was interesting because it's like if you were old enough to know what Johnny Quest was, right, you would know that this
Right,
was
right.
this was a a, I guess you could say like a knock on it or whatever the case, if you can call it that. But
It was definitely a spoof, if you will.
right. And but see, the thing about it was like the characters were, they were engaging, they were interesting, and like it seemed like they were trying to go the campy route at first, but then as time went on, like the characters started becoming like their own people, and you actually were interested in them. And then Brock Sampson became like one of the biggest badasses of that era. Like you knew who Brock Sampson was, and so
Yeah, and they really started developing the story more and more. I do feel like you touched on a point there where they tried to start off campy and kind of jovial, but
mm-hmm,
then as the story progressed and they got a little more serious about it,
mm-hmm,
they really took off with a deeper story.
mm-hmm.
And I fell in love with it for both reasons, the deep story and the campiness that they started with. I really fell in love with it for those two reasons.
Right, right. And it's because it's like you've got the Monarch and Dr. Girlfriend, and like the two goons that don't get killed by Brock Sampson, like they had their own story arc where one of them actually, hit the gym and got strong enough to go toe to toe with Brock, to which I was like, yo, that's actually really awesome, right? Um
But he got strong enough. He got strong enough after his best friend was killed.
ah, see, I missed that part.
Brock
So
Sampson killed him.
right, right, right. So but yeah, it's like just doing things like that, and then like the sons. I know one of them got a girlfriend. I don't remember what happened with the other one. Something significant happened. I'm blanking on it. But there's just a lot of stuff, and it's like, and then after a while, it stopped being a Johnny Quest spoof and just became Venture Brothers. Just period. It was just
It
Venture
just
Brothers.
became its own thing.
It
Yeah.
became its own thing. Yeah, and it's awesome, and it's so awesome, and like you've got that. Um, you've got animations from existing content like the Boondocks, where it covered a lot of interesting things during its run. Um, let's see what else from Adult Swim. Um, and where it's like animation is meant for children, question mark, subject matter, that uses traditional animation. Like, I'm not gonna rip on Flash, right? I'm not gonna rip on Flash because I used to use Flash, and I know, and it felt good knowing how to use Flash to animate things, turning your drawing into a marionette and moving it around. But
I won Best in Show for my animations using Flash.
say that again.
I won Best in Show in my graduating class using Flash.
Oh, that is so awesome! Congratulations on that one.
Yeah, I loved Flash. Matter of fact, when I was going to the Art Institute of Atlanta,
Mm.
as you know, it's been shut down, right?
Yes, yes, it has.
So, one of the reasons it's been shut down was people paid a lot of money to go there. But the teachers, bless the teachers' hearts, I don't blame the teachers,
Mm.
but they did not know what they were doing. They did not know the programs, they did not know the most current things.
Mm.
Um, so I had teachers that I really respected, but they didn't know the programs.
Right.
I taught myself Flash
Mm.
with YouTube videos, so I didn't have to go to college. I could have just YouTubed everything,
Right. Right. Right.
and I taught myself Flash, and I got really good at it. I really enjoyed it, and I made all of my animations using Flash,
Mm.
and I won Best in Show for it. The current technology, the current software was Toon Boom,
Yes.
but it was so revolutionary. It was so new that none of the teachers knew how to incorporate it. None of
Right.
the teachers knew how to teach it. They were just showing us YouTube videos that the actual production company, the actual software developers had made,
Mm.
and those YouTube videos were not doing it for me. I
Oh boy.
I couldn't grasp them. They were the Toon Boom software was so complicated. I was just screw this. I'm using Flash. I do know how to use Toon Boom now,
Oh, that's good.
but it took years of experimenting and practicing. Um, but yeah, the teachers did not know how to use Toon Boom or teach it. So I was not taught Toon Boom. I had to learn it on the fly when I had an animation job
Mm.
with Creative Overdose Studios. So
And
I
and
worked for Create.
and I can imagine that has to have been a huge, huge disservice to you, especially considering that this is for a your professional livelihood, right?
Right. So it was very frustrating. I would stand up and ask questions and everything, and I would be asking some of the hard hitting questions in class because I know that I'm paying a lot of money and I deserve to be asking these questions. I asked so many questions that the teacher stood up, told me to come outside the hallway,
Oh no.
and he asked me in the hallway, he said, "Would you please stop asking so many questions? I do not know this program. I am doing my best." And he was crying. He was
Oh.
literally crying.
Oh no.
He was like, "I am just trying to do my best."
I'm just
He did
trying to
not.
do my job. Why won't you let me
Yeah,
do my job? Oh no.
yeah, exactly. He was so distraught that I kept asking him questions in the class instead of just watching the videos. He was like, "Just watch the videos."
Please, just watch the videos. Just be quiet. I'm just,
Just stop
I
asking the
don't know how to
questions.
read. Please.
Yeah, it was really sad. I mean,
Uh,
this teacher was literally crying in the hallway, and I felt so bad for him. I was like, I'm just trying to get my money's worth.
right, cause AI was not cheap at all, and I find it very interesting. that you are an AI student because I too went to the Art Institute of Washington for a bit, and yeah, like when you're going to when you're trying to when you're trying to graduate on your final review and you don't, because the for those of you that don't know, with the Art Institute of Washington, you take your classes, you get your credits. Your final review is basically you make a portfolio of your best work, right, that you've made, and you present it to a list of, rather not a list, but a an audience of the faculty, and it's basically a go no go thing. And what's up, Varsoccer? Thank you for the raid. Appreciate it. Um, but the thing is, it's like if you see the thing about it, it costs money. Obviously, um, I can tell you right now, at least for me, it was like each time you take final review was around somewhere between 15 to 3 grand. And for context, I took final review 5 times, still didn't pass. So so yeah, um, that's that's a big deal. So when you say you want to get your money's worth, that is 100% true because these classes are not cheap, right? They're not cheap at all. And then like if you don't freaking make, I'm gonna call a spade here. If you don't make the cut, then you have to take final review again. But in order to take it again, you got to shell out the money for it. And so, yeah, like you asking the questions, yes, like you have to ask these questions because it's important, because not everybody's made of money. So I'm. Is it safe to say that you graduated from AI?
Ed, I graduated best in class.
Okay, I'm so glad.
And I only say that because I worked my ass off and I feel like I deserve to say that. I don't say that to brag, but I guess that is a brag.
Look, I'll be real with you. When you pass anything, when it comes to like college institutions, you are in your complete and utter right to brag and just toot your own horn as much as you want because that's a big deal regardless of the incentives of those that are judging you, right? Because not a lot of
Well,
people achieve what you've achieved, so you have all the right in the world to brag about it, right?
let's talk about what I did to actually get where I got
Yes.
because it will make me saying what I said sound less, oh, look at me. I think. All right. So
Please feel
when
free.
I started when I started going to the Art Institute of Atlanta, I had moved there
Mm-hmm.
and I was still single and not really taking everything seriously. I was taking school seriously, but I
Mm-hmm.
was like kind of wishy-washy on jobs and
Mm-hmm.
where I was going to live and things like that in my first year. But that's normal for people.
Mm-hmm. Of
But
course.
in my second and third and fourth year, what happened was I had met a man, I got pregnant,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that classic story that happens to a lot of people. It wasn't an ideal situation, but
Mm-hmm.
it made me take things more seriously. It made me step up my game. I had gotten pregnant, so I had moved out of Atlanta back to Birmingham, Alabama.
Uh-huh.
And so I was living in Birmingham, Alabama, but determined to still keep going to school.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so Atlanta was 4 hours away.
Right.
And I would get up at 2 a.m.
Good God.
and drive to Atlanta for class so I could be there on time.
Mm-hmm.
And I was never late to any of my classes, even though I had a 4 hour drive.
Right.
And while I was doing this drive, my car broke down
Mm-hmm.
in the middle of a semester.
Oh.
And instead of making excuses to my teachers, I decided I'm going to get to class on time no matter what.
Mhm.
And so I got a taxi.
Mhm.
I rad I rode the bus.
Mhm.
I got on a train and I walked all the way to school. And I was never late. I was that determined to do this
Mhm.
because animation and art has always been my top priority. So, it was really funny.
Mhm.
All of my professors at some point realized what I was doing to get to school,
Mhm.
and they started respecting me with like both my work that they were seeing in class, but
Mhm.
then also, they overheard my story, and they knew what I was doing to get to class. They saw my work, they appreciated it, and they started taking me really seriously. Well, there was one day that I was in class on time,
Mhm.
and a student showed up late.
Right.
And the teacher is like, "So why are you late?" And this kid goes, "Oh, I just had a really long drive. Traffic was really bad, and I just couldn't make it on time." And the teacher goes, "How long was your drive?" And he was like, "It was about an hour." And he goes, "Okay, Miss Miss Priola, please stand up and tell him what you have to do to get here." And so and so I stood up and I said, "I have to take a taxi, and then I have to take a bus, and then I have to take a train, and then I have to walk." And he goes, "And she's never late. What's your excuse again?"
I mean, not fair to compare. However, you do have a point.
So he was like not having it. He was like, "You live in the state and you're still late."
Bars.
So I thought that was really funny.
Mhm.
It's one of my favorite memories.
Well,
I was made an example of.
I want to take this opportunity to say that if I didn't already have a lot of respect for you before, I have so much more respect for you now because like your level of commitment to what it was that you wanted and the fact that it paid off and the sacrifices you made in order to do it. Um I think a lot of people can really learn and take away from essentially your testimony, right? Um, Taking the bus, taxis, walking, all these things. It's like that's what sets apart a person who kind of wants to do it from someone who needs to do it, right?
I, I
And
was I was really determined.
yeah, and I have to applaud you on that because it's like I myself had a similar opportunity where all I had to do was go to the Art Institute over in Norfolk, Virginia. But unlike you, I was like, that's too far of a drive, right? And so I didn't do that. And as a result, I never actually finished my schooling. To hear that you like you what you did is literally the alternative universe of what would happen if the decision was the other decision of doing it regardless. And obviously results may vary from person to person, but I'm very happy to hear that when you went that route it paid off in spades, you know. So you wear that with a badge of honor, ma'am, because that is amazing.
I really proud of myself for that because now, I was getting up at 2 a.m. and going to class, but now I find it really hard to get up at 6 a.m. And I don't know why, but I just I just do. I don't have that. I don't have that whole like um till death do us part type attitude anymore.
Right. Cause it's like you finally got there now. It's like, okay, okay, I can dial it back now.
I can totally dial it back now, and I've already established myself with where I want to be,
Mhm.
and I don't have an office that I have to go to.
Mhm.
I I freelance. I get to make my own schedule. So so yeah,
That's
I
all.
don't
That's
have to
that's so
get up at
awesome.
2 a.m. anymore.
Right.
I'm
And
sorry, it's really hard for me to draw and talk at the same time,
oh
so I
no,
need
it's
to
all
stop.
good. Like it's something that you have to. It takes practice, much like art. It just takes practice. You have to be able to multitask and such, which takes time, of course. Um, but speaking of drawing, um, let's have a quick. If you're at liberty, let's have a quick little summary of what it is that you're working on right now.
So what I'm working on is a piece that one of my collectors that has been collecting my art since the day I first went to a live, like a show to sell art. He found me and he really liked my art and he's been collecting ever since. It was back in, oh, when was it? I guess I can't remember, but it was a while back.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what I'm working on is he wanted a Virgo piece. He wants me to do my interpretation of Virgo.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really inspired by Alphonse Mucha.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is an Art Nouveau style piece.
Mm-hmm.
Let me deselect it real quick so you can look at it. So with an Alphonse Mucha style piece, what you want is kind of a bold outer line
Mm-hmm.
with fine inner lines.
Right.
So everything around the character is going to be really bold, and
Right.
everything inside the character is going to be fine lines.
Like in comic
So,
books.
like in comic books, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So, you've heard of Adam Hughes, yes?
Refresh my memory.
Okay, so Adam Hughes, let's look him up real quick. I'm going to look him up and show some of his stuff on my screen. So, Adam Hughes is a comic book illustrator that has done a lot of cover art.
Mm-hmm.
And he takes a lot of his inspiration from Alphonse Mucha as well because he does a very Art Nouveau style. So, some of his stuff, a lot of his stuff has like the bold outer line. If you can see this, is this big enough? Are you
Oh,
seeing it?
no, I'm not seeing it. I still see your work area.
Oh, so let me. I thought I had it to where it was looking at my screen, but it's looking at my program.
Mm-hmm.
How do I change it?
Mm-hmm. It's all good.
Are you still there?
I'm still here.
Okay. I clicked a button and it did something weird, and I was like, I don't know what I just did.
It's okay. Take your time. Uh, you see, I have the box showing that. Well, it's not your workstation now. Okay. All right. There it is. There it is. There it is. All right. Boop. Now we just gotta. Let's see. Ah, there we go. Perfect. Okay. Hey, Catwoman.
So, it's Adam Hughes. Um, his outer line is really thick, and
Mm,
then his inner lines are really thin.
right.
Hopefully, I can find a better example. These are all black, so
Mm-hmm.
you can't really see it. Um,
It's not
on, give
Catwoman.
me a
That's
better example other than Black Cat. She's
Black
so
Cat.
dark you can't see it.
I'm such a scrub. I said Catwoman, didn't I? Grown. I'm a fraud. Anyway, Black Cat. Please continue.
Silly typed in cat and Adam Hughes. That's why I was getting so much Black Cat.
Mhm.
Okay, so the outer line here is really bold,
Right.
and then all of his inner lines are really thin and
Mhm.
wispy. Um, this is Art Nouveau, inspired by Alphonse Mucha.
Mhm.
So I'm really inspired by Alphonse Mucha, but I'm also really inspired by Adam Hughes because he has the same thing going on. He was really inspired by Alphonse Mucha, so he has that Art Nouveau style.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, so something I really like to do is have these bold outer lines,
Mhm.
but then really fine details, thin lines on the inside of the figure.
Right.
So that's kind of. Can you see my page now? My Photoshop page?
You can do it. I believe in you. But
I'm
yeah,
not sure. Can you see my Photoshop page now? Because I'm not sure if
no,
I'm
I'm
sharing the right
still
thing.
on the page where you were showing me the different samples and examples.
All right.
Okay,
Now
now
you can.
now I got your Photoshop.
All right. So I want to do bold outlines
Mhm.
for the figure and then have thinner, more detailed lines on the inside. So this right here is a Art Nouveau styled piece inspired by Alphonse Mucha
Uh huh.
and Adam Hughes type stuff. But this is going to be Virgo. And so I'm going to have this very feminine character, but then I'm going to add a starry background with the Virgo emblem
Mhm.
above her.
Mhm.
And that's where I'm going with this.
Oh,
So
okay.
I hope that answers your question.
Oh yeah, it does. It does. And the thing with the art direction is that you have the bold outer lines make it to where the character pops more on the image, so that way when you put a backdrop behind it, like it doesn't like get drowned out or anything. It shows that you're this woman that you are clearly designing is taking center stage of the piece that you're working on, while
Yes,
also like you still have a background to just kind of have, right?
yeah. And so when I'm actually done with her, I'm probably going to thicken up her lines about like this. So I just thicken the lines,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I'm probably going to have the outer lines more thick like this. And that way she really feels contained and really solid.
Mm-hmm.
And then the background itself is not going to wash her out.
Right.
I think I think the balance between being really painterly on the inside of the painting,
Mm-hmm.
but then also very comic book thick lines on the outside of the painting
Mm-hmm.
has a bold impression to me.
Yeah, and then the other good thing is that because you're using thinner lines, or even in some cases like no lines at all, you're just relying on the colors to give you your details. It maintains the softness of the figure that you're making, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of areas where you have to ask yourself, what can I do to bring across the details without overdoing it?
Mm-hmm.
And what's important needs to be your question. So for me, when I'm doing my sketches and I'm doing my ink work, I ask, what are the details that absolutely have to be there? And what are the details that I can omit but suggest?
Mm-hmm.
So for that, let's take a look at just the ink work,
Okay.
and then I can talk about that further.
Okay.
So for the ink, oops, where is this? I might have found a flaw in my painting. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh, what happened? What'd you find out?
Look here.
Oh,
I did a classic mistake. I
oh, you
painted
you put it on the
on the
wrong
wrong
layer?
layer. I
Oh
painted on
no.
the wrong layer. So let me erase that. Thank God I can save that. Terrible. I hate it when you realize you've done that.
And it's funny because I was about to say that you're one of the courageous pros who doesn't label their layers, and then you immediately showed the drawback of not labeling your layers.
Exactly. That is one of the biggest downfalls you can have, not layering it correctly. Um, I usually lock my ink layer,
Mm-hmm.
and obviously I didn't do that. Let's go ahead and lock that ink layer. So, anyway, what I was talking about.
Yes, of course.
So, this is the ink layer.
Mm-hmm.
And so, for me, I try and find what are the details that absolutely have to be drawn, and then what can you leave out.
Mm-hmm.
So, I try and find those. And I don't draw everything like around the lips. A lot of people will draw all around the lips,
Mm-hmm.
and it actually does a disservice to the drawing because lips are not completely shadowed. And when you're drawing a line all the way around the lips, you're coming across as there's a complete shadow around the lip line. So
Hmm.
it in my opinion, it always looks wrong.
Right.
So I try to just draw where the shadows would be
Mm-hmm.
and then leave it alone.
Mm.
Um, that's my thing.
Mm. I can see that. Cause then at that point you don't necessarily need dominant lines to bitter beer face.
Yeah,
You don't need such dominant lines to express the lips. You just use your color theory to do the lifting for you. And also when you only use the colors as opposed to using dominant lines, it maintains that softness that lips normally have.
yeah. And another thing, like in my sketches, I really like to draw the line that's on the belly. You know, that line that separates the abdomen.
Mm-hmm.
If you can see my mouse
Yeah, I
moving
can see
right
it.
here. Okay, so that line right there, I love drawing that line, but
Mm-hmm.
if I were to ink that line, it would look really harsh and
Mm-hmm.
really heavy.
Mm-hmm.
So I leave that line out of my ink work and I just paint it in with my colors and shadows.
Right. And it's also dependent on the purpose of whatever your project is. Like, obviously, here with what you're working on now, putting I'll just call it like a sternum line. The sternum line probably wouldn't be
Hmm.
the best thing to do here. But if you're working on, say, like a shonen manga, like My Hero Academia or something, maybe you want it there because it's to express their muscle structure more or something,
Yeah,
perhaps.
a character that has huge muscles, very solid,
Mm-hmm.
defined muscles, you can ink that and it will make more sense. But if you have a softer character,
Mm-hmm.
you you don't want to ink it if it's going to be a softer line.
Right, right,
So what are you working on today? I finally looked over at your screen.
right. So I am. So at first I was gonna work on a project that squad at the Discord and I were supposed to be working on this month, but instead I decided to work on one of my character sheets for a character that has not been introduced in my story yet. Her name is Mindy. She is the daughter of professional wrestler Da Superfly, and I was actually working on this because I had reached out to one of my coworkers who does a lot of like little girl voices for whatever reason, and I was like, what if at some point I decide to do a little bit of animation with this character and have him be the voice actor, right? So I'm doing a character sheet right now, trying to do expressions. As you can see, I'm just working on one, and that's what I'm working on at the moment. um, so yeah, like that's really cool. It's really awesome, and it's always nice to see how knowledgeable you are at your craft. Definitely is showing here with what you're working on now. Um, so let's shift gears just a smidge. Um, Night and day, right? Let's talk about night and day. If you're at liberty, of course.
Absolutely. I am so excited.
Awesome. Okay, so you've got night and you've got day. Um, from the little bit of the pages that I've seen on your Facebook page, seems like they're living together, but they're kind of roughing it because Night doesn't take crap from everybody, but it tends to be at their detriment, and she's
Yes.
unapologetic about it.
Yes.
And Day, she's a dreamer. She
Hmm.
has a story that she's worked on. I almost want to say she's an avatar of yourself. Is that true?
Really, both are.
Oh,
And the
okay.
story behind that, we can get into that a little bit if you want.
That is entirely up to you if you're comfortable with it.
Yeah. So the way the story came about is they're both based off me.
Mm-hmm.
um, During college, especially, is when I started figuring this out. I had a lot of people come up to me that I didn't know, and
Mm-hmm.
they would say, "Hey, Knight, what's going on?" And I didn't know them. I absolutely didn't know them, and they would start talking to me and telling me stuff that I've done,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't remember it at all. But I was like, "You have somebody else that you're thinking of," and they're like, "No, no, no, it's you." Um,
They just straight up just called you Knight out of just willy nilly, or is there a story to that, or?
yeah, that so they would literally walk up to me and call me Knight,
Uh huh.
and they would say, "Oh yeah, like you remember we did this, this, and this," and I said, "No, I don't remember that at all. I don't even know who you are." And they're like, "No, we hung out and we did all this," and I was like, um, "No, I don't think I did that. I don't remember you. I don't know who you are."
Mm-hmm.
Um, but they were adamant that it was me,
Mm-hmm.
and they knew me as Knight. So I took all these stories that people were telling me that I did
Uh huh.
because this happened multiple times.
Really?
Yes,
That's
I I took all these stories that people told me I did, and I started writing them down. Um, I I made up the name for Day
mm-hmm.
because nobody was walking up to me and saying, "Hey, Day," but I made up the name for Day based off of you know just being the daydreamer that I am
Mm-hmm.
and putting that as her name. But a lot of these stories that come into the comic are based off of my real life.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a dichotomy of both of these characters, but it is everything that I did, apparently.
Oh wow.
Later on in life, I I realized I had a lot of memory issues.
Oh.
I I can't remember a lot of my life,
Huh.
and I went to a I finally was forced to go to a psychologist,
Uh huh.
and they told me I had a rare condition where my memory was really lapsed. Um,
Mm-hmm.
the condition is
Uh huh.
super obtuse,
Uh
and
huh.
it's been made fun of. It's been in movies. It's something that is crazy.
So what? 50 first dates?
DID.
Hmm.
So DID is dissociative personality disorder, um, and that is multiple personality disorder.
Mm-hmm.
And I I found it really weird because people would constantly be coming up to me and telling me things that I did not remember.
Right.
And so yeah, I started writing these things down,
Mm-hmm.
and I made night and day based off of these different memories that people had of me. And it's based off my life, but the dichotomy of my life.
Mm-hmm.
So day is me, the artsy person,
Mm-hmm.
but night is apparently this other side of me that is
The wild child.
more of a wild child, more of like doesn't take crap from people.
Mm-hmm.
So
Hmm.
this the story comes from that um, kind of kind of weird to talk about, but
I'm sorry if I uh, made anything awkward here.
oh no, I just no, I'm the awkward one.
Okay.
But yeah, especially in college,
Mm-hmm.
it happened a lot. Like people just come up to me and talking to me, and I didn't remember who they were,
Mm-hmm.
and I would actually wake up in places that I didn't remember how I got there.
Oh wow.
And I wouldn't be drunk. I wouldn't be on drugs. I didn't do a whole lot of that.
Uh huh.
So it wasn't drugs or alcohol related. I just have these severe memory issues where
Where you
I
just
don't
don't
remember
remember.
conversations, I don't remember events. Matter of fact, what I have to do now in order to remember things, I have to take videos and write down everything. Otherwise, I will forget it the next day.
Oh wow.
Um, if I'm on a job, I have to write down on a marker board that I put in the middle of my room, really
Mm-hmm.
big, what the job is, what I'm doing,
Mm-hmm.
and when I stop the job for that day, I have to write down you were working on this is what you were doing, and this is what you have to do tomorrow. Otherwise, I do not remember it.
Huh.
So,
Well, I mean,
I've,
I guess it's good that you have a way to work with it. That's
yeah,
that's
it's
huh.
it's caused me a lot of problems because um, even when I wasn't freelancing and I was working in like the service industry,
Mm-hmm.
I would forget that I had a job completely.
Oh boy.
Yeah, and there was a lot of times where I would forget to show up for work because I didn't remember that I had work at all.
Right.
And it's not because I was being lazy, and it's not because I was just like, well, screw this job. I literally would wake up and have a blank slate of like, wait a second, who am I?
Oh jeez. Huh.
So now I've been going to therapy and I've been learning techniques to deal with it where
Mm-hmm.
I have to write everything down. Like I said, I have to have this marker board that is in the middle of my room where
Mm-hmm.
I write, this is what you're doing, this is the job, you know,
Uh-huh.
this is what you have to do during the day. And if I don't do that while I'm still conscious and while I'm still thinking about it,
Mm-hmm.
then I will not remember it. And so a lot of the time when I want to remember something, I will
Mm.
take videos of it. Like there was this time that I went to a show. I was invited to a show,
Mhm.
but a friend of mine invited me to his house and we had a really nice time and we were hanging out.
Uh
I
huh.
had to video the whole thing and I felt kind of awkward for that, but I was like, he knew what my situation was. I had already told him, look, I
Mm.
have to video everything, otherwise I won't remember it. So
Right.
I was sitting there videoing everything, and the only reason I remember what that night was like was because I have the video of it.
Hmm.
So it's it's weird, but um, that's just how it is.
Mhm. And again, like I'm very glad to hear that you have a way, a method of being able to, work with that particular quirk about yourself. I'll say it's a quirk. You
Quirk,
know.
you want to put it that way.
Yeah. It's a little quirky aspect about you. There's nothing wrong with you. This is just what makes you different from everybody else. You know.
um, yeah, everybody has their quirks, as you say.
Mhm.
Um, it just it affects me in a way that is kind of detrimental in a lot of ways, but
Mhm.
I've been working on it.
Mhm.
So it's going good now. Like, I know how to deal with it now.
Mhm.
But the night and day comic is all about before I knew how to deal with it.
Hmm. Interesting.
So I'm kind of giving away a lot, but the story is about one person that doesn't realize they're multiple different people
Uh huh.
and they're friends with themselves and they talk to themselves too much.
Oh, I see. I see where you're getting at. And I see what you're getting at, and I'm gonna refrain from saying anything further just in case the audience doesn't quite get it. So, but I get where you're coming from. I understand. That's 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 interesting. That's very interesting. Um,
um,
huh. But let's
so it's
go ahead.
it's based off of every artist, I think, has multiple different sides. I think that's true for every artist.
Mm-hmm.
And the story is based off of my different sides. Um, I do have one side that is very happy go lucky,
Mm-hmm.
very optimistic. All she thinks about is art. But then
Hmm.
I have another side that is completely the opposite.
Right.
Um, doesn't want to work hard, just wants to play life as a game,
Mm-hmm.
and could care less about anything that's going on or what people think about her.
Hmm.
But Day constantly thinks about what people think about her, wants to show people that she's worthy of their presence, if
Hmm.
you will,
Mm-hmm.
and wants to be the best she can,
Mm-hmm.
while Night doesn't care about that in the least.
Yeah. Knights just wants to do her own thing. Be damned like the consequences.
There's something really freeing about that.
Mm-hmm.
When you don't care what people think, you don't have any chains on you.
That's very true, actually.
But when you obsess over wanting to be the best person you can be for everybody, you're constantly going to be working yourself to the bone for that.
Mm-hmm. Because spoiler alert, you can't make everybody happy.
Yeah,
Some people, there's not, there's quite literally nothing you can do to change their mind or outlook on whether it's you or things that you do, and you just gotta hold that and move on.
yeah. So Day's kind of detriment is she's constantly trying to prove herself to everybody,
Mm-hmm.
and she never she never can make everybody happy, and that's something we all can kind of relate to, I think,
Mm-hmm.
because we want people to be happy with us, but we can't make everybody happy.
Right. It's just not possible. The thing is that the more you try to make everyone happy that you come across, the more you just drive yourself into madness.
Yes. I yes, I definitely went there.
Mm-hmm.
Um so I'm going to have to take a quick break if
Okay,
that's okay,
that's fine.
and I will be right back.
Not a problem. Take your time. All right. So while she is, let's see here. First off, Alistair Saynire, hello, greetings, thank you. That's amazing to use that media to share that kind of story. Yeah, I mean, yes, it is. Um, a lot of times when it comes to artists, especially when they have great works of with in regards to storytelling, usually some of the best works involve utilizing aspects of themselves and telling the story to others in whatever entertaining medium that they have, right? I know not all artists do it that way, but like it is a method, right? And and like and and you'll excuse me if I don't have examples or samples readily available, but I do recall of where some people that's how their creative minds work, but they utilize it that way so much that it actually does drive them to hurting themselves because it's like even with this outlet of expressing what you're going through, like and you'll have so many people invested on what it is that you're making, right? And you'll be so successful, but the bottom line is like if nothing is being done to help you with that, whether you want the help or not, a lot of times you'll get people where it's like you check on the news and all of a sudden they're not with us anymore and it's like, oh man, who saw that coming? And it's like, well, if you looked at their work, you could see it was there the whole time. But that's more of the like darker side of that sort of thing. But but yes,
Facts.
a lot of times people will take artists will take their own experiences and especially if it's storytelling and they will turn it into a story that they can share with others. And usually really good works come from that. Um, and
I
so
think the best stories are from your personal experience because every story has been written already,
mhm.
but your story has not.
Mhm. And I agree with that wholeheartedly. Um because it's like what one of your comics said because I was looking it over yesterday. um it was saying like because it was Day and I believe she was with a unicorn and I forgot who said what, but basically the conversation went what if they don't like my story, and the other person said it doesn't matter if they don't like your story, still tell your story. And I'll be real with you, that actually stuck with me because I was like, oh, I think I even liked the post. So yeah, like yeah, it's like just tell your story, tell your story, and don't worry about whether people think it's the greatest thing ever or if they just think it's butt cheeks, right? Just tell your story because
Exactly.
Yeah, because Lord knows I struggled with that. I kind of still struggle with it now, where it's just like I have a story to tell, but I'm still a little bit because it's like I don't know, man. Like maybe people won't think much of it or whatever. But I'm like you, I'm working on that too. Because you just have to tell your story because if you don't tell it, nobody will, right? So
Like, I'm trying to actually share my window that I'm looking at, and I keep sharing windows that are open instead of the actual window I'm looking at.
yes, I am looking at your stylus right now.
Yeah, that's not what I'm trying to share. Change windows. I want what I'm actually looking at.
See, I understand that
But
often
this,
artists do impart a part of themselves, and I admire how brave it is to share that greater story. Yes, yes, it does take quite a bit of courage to be willing to share that story. To which I meant to sell this to you before you took your quick break. Thank you for sharing that with us. I'm honored that you felt comfortable to share that on this platform. Um, and so, yeah, that's the one that I read. Yep, yep, yep.
yeah, trying to not be embarrassed about it because I went so long being embarrassed about it.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm just trying to be like, don't care. If people judge me, they judge me. Everyone's going to judge you for something.
Right.
So,
Yeah, because no matter what, like we just said, no matter what, if someone is determined to not like either you or something that you do, you're not gonna change their mind. It
you're
is
not going to
what it
change
is.
their mind. I am who I am. I've got both of my victories and my problems. And what you can do is work on them.
Mm-hmm.
You can acknowledge them and work on them. And that's all you can do.
Or you can acknowledge them and establish whether it's worth working on or not.
Yeah. Well, if you designate them as problems and you feel like they're problems in your life, then definitely work on them.
Yes.
Um, I feel like every day is about learning and
Mm-hmm.
bettering yourself. If I every day I feel like I need to learn something and I need to better myself in some way. I feel like every day you need to be progressing. I mean, yeah, you have some days where you just want to sit down and eat potato chips and watch a crappy show, but for me, most
Beautiful badassery. How
every
are you?
day I want to wake up and get my day rolling, learn something, better myself, and work hard on something. That's most of my goals.
Mm-hmm. And that's another important thing to note in regards to that. Goals are very important. You should always have something to strive for to help keep you motivated. Um, and it's like, and then, but there's another little tidbit with that as well, and that is, it's this piggybacks off of what you just said. Um, having goals is very important, but also be able to acknowledge small victories on your path to your goal because that's important too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like if your small victories are I took a shower today,
Mm-hmm.
let that be your small victory. Because
Mm.
sometimes you wake up and you don't feel like doing anything.
Right.
And taking care of yourself is a victory.
Yeah, and it's really, really important too.
Are we still following this guy?
Yeah.
That was Alistair Saynire. Thank you for the follow. I love and appreciate it for that. Thank you. But yeah, it's like because see the thing is, and I actually see this with like a lot of content creators. Um, there's this term, perhaps you've heard of it. It's called burnout, right?
Yeah.
Um, Oftentimes creators will have to take a hiatus or they'll just stop doing what it is that they do entirely because they burn out, right? And so And that's why taking the time to acknowledge smaller victories while still being on your path to that major goal is extremely important, because that can help cut down or even just completely prevent burnout. Um, because it's like for example, you've got your night and day comic, you've got your comic involving the wolf girl, right? You have these projects, but also you like we're doing right now. You're also working on a commission, right? And the thing is, it's like, yes, you're doing the commission because you were hired to do so, but at the same time, when you finish that commission, that's still a small victory. Like, you got it done. And, it feels good to finish something that you started. And so just acknowledging those sorts of things is really, really important. And yes, this was the comic I was alluding to earlier. And as a
That's
matter of
it.
fact, if I'm not mistaken, the unicorn in the other image that you showed is actually in this comic, correct?
Yeah, so this is Daydreams, what she's working on. What Daydreams wants to do
Mm-hmm.
is be an animator and illustrator. That is me.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
um, she has this dream of making this whole book
Mm-hmm.
that is about this werewolf girl.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a fantasy world that she lives in. She daydreams about it all the time, and that's where her name comes from, daydreams.
Mm-hmm.
So she's constantly daydreaming about this other world that she wishes she could be in.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so Night is constantly trying to keep her from achieving her goals because Night doesn't think it's important to reach out and strive to achieve goals because goals just get overlooked by people. They get trampled on by people, and
Mm-hmm.
you get hurt when you put your goals out there and you put your work out there.
Mm-hmm.
And Night, even though Night seems to be so dismissive of Day, Night is actually trying to protect Day.
Mm-hmm.
Night doesn't want Day to get hurt, and Night wants to teach Day stop caring so much about what other people think.
Mm-hmm.
Stop caring so much about your passion, about your dreams, because it just leads to disappointment because other people aren't going to take it as seriously as you do.
Mm-hmm. Huh. Oh, so heavy. So heavy. I love it. Oh man. But yeah. Cause don't we all fall into that if we have any type of aspiration of any kind, and just that nagging feeling of, what if people don't accept it? What if people don't accept me and what I do? And just start developing that sense of like uncertainty, which can lead into things like procrastination or just lack of motivation. Like that is something that a lot of people, I believe, could actually relate to, myself included. Because yeah, it's like that's usually the thing. It's like it's like you're doing this thing, and the thing is, you want to share it with people, but you just don't know how they're gonna receive it. But then to have, like in Knight's case, where it's like you shouldn't care about what other people think, right? Um, which, though, to be fair, those are words to live by. Um, one of my first classes when I was still in the military actually told me that when I was in the service, and that changed my life forever.
So you were
So,
in the service. What service were you in?
I was in the Navy, 2004 to
Navy.
2009. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yep, yep, yep. But so I can understand where Knight is coming from in regard to, like, yo, why do you care what other people think of you? Like, just do you, and just go from
Yeah.
there. Now, the part where she's like, stop having goals and aspirations, I don't know about all that. But, I mean, character has to character, right? And so yeah, I get it. I get it. I understand it. I understand trying to make everybody happy. I understand that too, right? Like, like your comic is checking a lot of boxes, at least for me, right? It's checking a lot of boxes. Um, So, is there somewhere where the inquiring minds can get access to your comic, whether it's digitally or paperback? Is there a paperback? There is a paperback, right?
My shorts, like, I post some stuff on Instagram where they're the shorts of Night and Day.
Uh huh.
And it's all, I have a bunch of stuff for Instagram that I make
Okay. Okay.
just for Instagram and just for Facebook.
Mhm.
And then the paperback, I release a couple of pages of my actual comic,
Mhm.
but then the rest of the comic, I hope people will buy to
Right.
support me.
Yeah.
Not
Please,
that I,
please support
not
your
that I,
creators.
not that I make like a whole lot of money on it. I try to make it as cheap as possible.
Mhm.
I just want like the print costs covered,
Mhm.
but for the full comic, I do just release that for the paperback, and
Mhm.
like you have to just. I don't do Kickstarters.
Right. 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 I understand.
I don't understand Kickstarters. I don't want to learn Kickstarters. I don't care about them.
Mhm.
I'm not trying to gain a bunch of money and kick off something.
Mhm.
For me, it's I get these things printed, and if you want them, then just ask me and I'll send it to you.
Mhm.
But um, mostly on my Instagram, I just post shorts,
Mhm.
like just the little tidbits. But if you want the whole actual comic,
Mhm.
then just I make it to where, because mostly the people that want the comic know me,
Mhm.
or I post it on my Facebook page
Mhm.
as Velise on Facebook. And if they see it, then I just tell them, message me, I'll send it to you.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Gotcha.
So I don't do things, I guess, like a lot of people do, and
Mhm.
I might be wrong for that. I, I might be missing out on something because there's a lot of creators that make their comics and they post Kickstarters,
Mhm.
but I don't do that. Like
No.
if you want what I'm doing, then follow me on Instagram, follow me on Facebook,
Mhm.
and then if you want the comic, just message me for it.
And that's perfectly fair. Like, not everybody's gonna break out the Kickstarter or the Patreon to try to like get like a whole bunch of stuff going, right? Like, for some folks, that's not the that's not the agenda. That's not the end game, right? Um, but so okay, so we got that. But I see you're on your page. Real quick, if you would be so kind, there is one particular strip that you posted that I thought was really funny and probably has a funny story behind it. It's the one about, and get your minds out of the gutter, people. It's the one about Day going to the bathroom.
Yes, let's find that one.
Yeah, find that one real quick.
Where is it? Here we go.
All right, let me
All right.
do this. Okay, so so what's the story behind this particular snippet? Because I know you lightly spoke on it on social media. So tell me, share with the class, so to speak.
I am afraid of automatic toilets. I like the first time I used an automatic toilet, I was not ready and I was there using it and it flushed on me and the water splashed all over me and the
Oh,
noise was really loud and I got so scared. It was it was a traumatic experience. I
I'm
have to
so sorry to hear
deal with
that.
that.
Oh, jeez.
I have to deal with that every day and just kind of breathe through it. I'm just kidding. But yeah, no, I am every time I go into a public restroom where there's automatic toilets, I have to prepare myself for it
Hmm.
because you put yourself down on that automatic toilet and it doesn't wait for you to fully leave before it flushes.
Right.
So
Sometimes it just goes as you're trying to get up. Other times it'll do it right as you're sitting down. And if you're the kind of person that gets caught off guard very easily, I can see how that can be very frustrating, to say the least.
I'm just never prepared for it.
But yeah,
So yeah.
that was neat. I really like that one, to be honest. It's really fun. Just Day's face is just great. It's so great.
So I always imagine like the the little red beam coming out of it and it becomes a Decepticon.
That probably would have been like I would suspect this is just me, of course. I would suspect if there was like another panel of this, like they would leave and come to find out the Decepticon would poke their head out of the door, watching them walk
I,
away. Like,
I should have done that. I should have elaborated on it more. But I try to stay inside of these little squares
right, I got you.
so I can make them bite sized for Instagram and Facebook.
Mm. Yeah, cause oh my gosh, I can't stand Instagram's like very strict dimensional window. Like
Yeah,
like you
that's been that's been tough to deal with because I posted my comic, and this is the if you can see it now, I'm
Yeah, I
not
got it.
sure. So I posted this is the full page,
Mhm.
but sometimes Instagram doesn't let you post the full page and it makes it a square.
Right.
So sometimes I go to post full pages and it doesn't let me. It
Mhm.
it's just up to Instagram
Right.
whether or not they feel like letting you post it or not.
It's
So I try to keep with the squares.
it's like one of those things where it's like I've seen some people on Instagram do this where it's like the way they do it is they'll post the page multiple times. So when you swipe to the left, it shows the continuation of the page. I've seen people do that, but even then I still feel like that's very annoying.
Yeah, it it really is. So I do a lot of these where I think in squares
Mhm.
and I post it just thinking about Facebook and Instagram.
Mhm.
And I try to do tidbits where it's for free, everybody can see it. I'm not trying to get any money off of it. I'm just trying to get my art out there, basically.
Mhm.
And so for this one, if you can see that now,
Mhm.
I I had to put these white borders on it
Mhm.
so I could post it as squares,
Right.
but it's a preview of my comic.
Just really, I really love your color theory. It's really good, and I love how you your lights and shadows. Love it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, so let's talk about color theory if you want to. You want
Sure.
to go there?
Toads down. We are here for you, madame. You have the floor.
No, no, don't make it about me.
But it is about you. That's why we're here.
Oh my gosh.
No
So,
pressure.
all right, let's take a look at this page, for example, since I
Okay.
have it up. Um, the colors are muted.
Mm-hmm.
It's very colorful on the surface, but the colors are actually muted. I never go fully saturated with my colors. You never, in my opinion,
Uh-huh.
and if I'm teaching a class, I will always tell my students, you never want to, all right, let's go to Photoshop. You never want to go all the way up here to the fully saturated.
Well, I can save you a step. We can literally look at what I drew because my stuff is saturated.
Wait a second. I'm still not showing. I'm just. This thing isn't showing what I want to show.
Okay, so there's your Photoshop workstation.
Okay. Can you see my mouse?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So you never want to go to the fully saturated color cue
Right.
and then color your characters.
Mm-hmm.
You want to find something that's around here.
Right.
And the reason you want to do that is nothing in reality is going to be fully saturated without bounce light, without shadow.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you're never going to have something that's so bright and so saturated in the real world.
Right.
Um, a lot of people make this mistake, and I made this mistake when I was young in my art career, wanting to go full saturated, wanting to go super bright colors,
Mm-hmm.
like wanting to go super saturated to like the reds, like this super saturated red, right?
Right.
Or or super saturated blue.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to see that in reality. You're always going to have shadows, you're always going to have some kind of desaturation in real life.
Mm-hmm. And it
Um,
also not going full saturation with your stuff works in your favor anyway because that's the backdrop that you're working with. That's the mood that your comic has. So it actually helps pull out the mood more when you have it that way.
yeah, another thing that I do is work with, um, it's hard to talk and look at what I'm doing. Sorry.
You can do it. I believe
Another
in you.
another thing that I work with is like midday or evening type settings.
Mhm.
And in your twilight type settings, there's not going to be full white light. You're going
Mhm.
to have that purple and orange meeting together.
Mhm.
So in all of my stuff, I put a purple and orange gradient on everything. So
Mhm.
as you can see here, there is purple to orange gradient over everything.
Mhm.
Orange, purple, orange, purple
Mhm.
to everything. And that gives you the sunset feeling. And you really don't want super saturated colors. Like for her hair,
Mhm.
you get the idea that her hair is purple,
Right.
right? But it's not purple. In Photoshop, you will
Mhm.
see if you color pick this, it is almost brown.
Oh.
It's just the illusion of purple because I want you to think it's purple.
Mm, mm, mm. That's actually
So
really neat.
everything is desaturated, and I take colors and I tell you what the color is by the scenery around it.
Hmm. Hmm. After what you told me earlier, now I can't unsee it anymore. And what I'm referring to in regards, I'll leave that up to you. But yes, I I just see it. I just see it completely now.
So that's something I tell a lot of my students is you want to go for really saturated because you're excited,
Mhm.
but tone it down, find something, and let me switch back to Photoshop. Find something in in this mid-range here,
Right. Well,
and
dang,
that's going
I
to
see.
help.
I know what
It's
my
going to help
homework is now.
it's really going to help you make things look it's really going to help things look more satisfactory. It's going to make things look more realistic. It's going to look more natural.
Mhm.
Because if you go too saturated, it's always going to look unnatural.
Mhm. Hmm.
So for these colors here that I have on my commission,
Mhm.
they are all very desaturated colors. Let's color pick them and
Mhm.
take a look at them. See, it doesn't go high over here
Right.
in the saturated area. It's really low in the saturation.
Mhm.
Really low in the saturation. It's never going to be extreme. And if you take my work and you color pick it, it's never going to be in the extreme areas.
Hmm. You're basically just hanging around in the middle for the most part.
Yeah, if you want something really dramatic, like sometimes I go absolutely white,
Uh huh.
but that's only when I want to do this right here, when I want to make a extreme highlight.
Right. Hmm.
And I do the extreme highlight on a lot of my work. Like for night and day, I do a lot of white highlights on their noses because on noses, that's where you're going to have the most focus of light.
Mhm.
Something a really fine artist taught me was you're only going to have absolute white on one area of your drawing or on the photograph.
Mhm.
It's never going to be, all right, so you can see here.
Mhm.
Can you see this?
Yeah, I can see
You
it.
see the highlight I put on Knight's nose here?
Yeah, the bridge and like the tip of her nose, but the tip of her nose isn't quite as dominant.
Right, but that's absolute white.
Mhm.
And you're only going to have that high contrast of white in one area of the face.
Hmm.
And that's going to be the part of the face that sticks out the most.
Hmm.
And that's the nose. The second highest concentration is going to be on the cheeks.
Mhm.
But let's talk about the nose for a second.
Okay.
In a photograph, you can look at photographs and see there is only one area of the photograph that is going to have the highest concentration of white.
Mhm.
Unless it has been edited to have more than that. But in a classic photo where you haven't edited it, you're only going to have one area that is highly concentrated with white.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be the thing that is in the most foreground.
Well, the
Does
thing
that
that's
make sense?
closest to the viewer.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes sense to you?
Yes, it does.
Okay. So everything else has to be pushed back. If you pick something to have the highest accent lighting on it,
Mm-hmm.
nothing else can have that. Otherwise, you're just going to um, you're going to make everything too concentrated.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned that from a medical artist.
Mm-hmm.
He was an amazing teacher to me. He could make noses look like something you wanted to stare at for hours.
Oh wow.
And yeah, and noses aren't something that you think are beautiful, right?
Let alone interesting.
Right. But I he was a medical artist and he would do these drawings of noses or of ears or of whatever and make them so beautiful you wanted to stare at it forever. And the the way he taught me was your your highest white, you can only have one point that's going to be the highest white.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't need to make a bunch of other areas high white and make that light everywhere because
Mm.
light doesn't work that way.
Right.
And you don't want to make everything super saturated because that's not how light works.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I try to teach my students
Mm-hmm.
and people that ask me, how do I do what I do? A lot of people say, oh, your color is so good. Well, if my color is so good, then what I would say about that is never go fully saturated unless that is the absolute point of your drawing.
Ah.
If you want something to be the focus of your drawing,
Mm-hmm.
then maybe make it fully saturated.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to be super, super careful
Mm-hmm.
with when you want something to be fully saturated because that is not how light works
Mm-hmm.
in reality.
Hmm. Interesting. Where do you teach actually?
Teach like personal classes, like people I've taught at like there was a couple of comic book stores that had a lot of kids coming in saying, "Oh, this you know, Cub Scout group or
Mm-hmm.
what's the word for Girl Scout group?"
Uh-huh.
That's I'm an idiot.
Oh, you're
Girl Scout
fine.
group.
It's fine.
This Girl Scout group or this Cub Scout group really wants to learn about comic books, wants to learn about art. And so I would teach Cub Scout groups, I would teach Girl Scout groups, and I would teach one on one classes with people about art. And people can still contact me and be like, oh, my kid is really into art. I want you to maybe give them a class on it, and I'll do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a lot of fun with it.
Well, that's good. So you're giving back to the community.
I think that's important. Um, Once you get to a level where you've learned a lot, I feel like you definitely need to teach the younger generation. And that's what my mentors taught me. My
Mm-hmm.
mentors always said, I have to give back to the younger generation. And they told me, I
Are
want
we
you to
still
pass it
following
on
this
when
guy?
you get to that point. So I try and do that because that's what my mentors taught me.
Mm-hmm. And that's really a good thing to do. Like give back. Make sure the skills and techniques that you've developed can carry on. Through the years, through through the next generation. That's actually really really good. That is true master stuff there, right there. Also, Jeffrey Gwynn, thank you for the follow. Loved and appreciated for that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Um, so wow, like this is actually really cool. Like, uh, I'll be honest. I was expecting like we were just gonna be mainly just talking about your comic book, but we actually talked about not just that, but also a lot of really, really, really interesting and very enlightening subjects and topics. Um, so let's see here. So, all right. So, do you personally have a favorite artist? Doesn't matter if it's
Like,
traditional animation, whatever. Do you yourself have a favorite artist?
so my favorite animation artist
Hmm.
is Glenn King.
Mm-hmm.
Not King, but Keen.
Okay. Glenn
Glenn
Keane.
Glenn King.
Mm-hmm.
And my favorite illustrators are Alphonse Mucha
Mm-hmm.
and Adam Hughes.
Oh, nice.
I've already talked about them a little bit already, but Alphonse Mucha, the first time I was introduced to Alphonse Mucha, my older sister, and she's a lot older than me, she already had a house and a husband and everything, and I was still living at home with my dad and mom.
Mm-hmm.
She told me about Alphonse Mucha. She gave me a book of Alphonse Mucha's work,
Mm-hmm.
and that has inspired me for the rest of my life.
That's so
All
awesome.
of my stuff is based off of the inspiration of Alphonse Mucha.
Let's do a quick which column here? You said Alphonse Mucha.
Yeah, Mucha.
There he is. Take a quick look. Alphonse Mucha, a Czech painter and illustrator. Ooh, these are really nice looking. What are the images? Ooh. Oh, okay. I see where you're coming from. Um, very, very classical. Well, obviously very classical considering the era, but does pretty ladies with some very, very beautiful hair,
Yeah,
and
my favorite subject to draw is women because I love the curves, I love the hair, I love the eyes, I love the noses. Women are the most fun to draw for me. I'm
mm-hmm.
actually really bad at drawing men. So, with Alphonse Mucha,
mm-hmm.
you've got these really bold outside lines, and
Mm-hmm.
then you have these really delicate inside lines,
Let's go to this
with
one.
the faces being very painterly, but
Mm-hmm.
then other areas. This comes back. That's not Alphonse, which you just clicked on.
Oh,
That's AI.
oh, whoops, my bad. Sorry, I'm a fraud. I'm a fraud. I apologize. I apologize to
No,
everybody.
no, that's what you're gonna run into these days.
Right. Oh.
Um, with Alphonse Mucha, he does something that I subscribe to, which
Mm-hmm.
is what are the details you really need to bring out, and
Mm-hmm.
what are the details you can kind of leave out, but the mind will fill in.
Gotcha. Hmm.
So with Alphonse Mucha, you have really painterly faces. The
Mm-hmm.
faces will be somewhat detailed,
Mm-hmm.
but then something like the calves or the lower arms will just have kind of flat coloring to it.
Mm-hmm.
Because what you're looking for, in my opinion, for fine art
Mm-hmm.
or art in general is what details makes the brain say, this is what I'm looking at. All right, let's talk about a tree.
Mm-hmm.
What details can I put in this painting that makes it a tree? You do not have to draw every single leaf
Right.
because the brain isn't going to comprehend every single leaf.
Or every single groove in the trunk.
Right. So, what you want to do is say, what makes this a tree? What does the brain comprehend as a tree? And let's draw the details that are important, not every single fine line.
Even though there are definitely mad lads out there who will do just that. And it's like, this looks great, but oh my gosh, I need you to love yourself, please.
Exactly. You don't have to torture yourself and do every single detail. You don't,
Mm-mm.
because the brain can only comprehend so much.
Right.
Someone that is looking at your art is never going to see all the detail you put into it.
Mm-hmm.
No matter how much work you put into it, someone is not going to look at it and say, oh, I can count every leaf. Nobody is ever going to do that. All
Mm-hmm.
right, you might have one fanatic that does that, but that's not the majority,
Mm-hmm.
right? You want to look at, we're going to talk about trees. You
Mm-hmm.
want to look at the tree and say, what about this tree can I draw that makes it a tree?
Mm-hmm.
And then exclude all the unnecessary details.
Mm-hmm.
If I can find an example, I will. I have.
I could actually, I'm gonna save real quick. We can actually take this a step further. I'm gonna make a new file and I'm gonna put some gray here and let's actually put it to practice.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, so let me go ahead,
All
fill
right.
this in real quick.
All right. So I have something pulled up very basically.
Alright, so let me just do that. Matter of fact, nah, I'm just gonna use black. It's fine. We are doing an experiment. Okay, so your question was what aspects of a tree make a tree, right? So the way my brain works, obviously you need something that's structurally sound to be a tree, right? Because it's got to have that. In my mind's eye, it's got to have that. Um, uh, dang it, what's that thing called? The thing that you tell time. It's got sand in it. Hourglass. There we go. It's got like an hourglass like shape sometimes, and then you need the little pokey parts to represent like the roots. And then in terms of, and I'm gonna spitball this. Uh, also, I'm going to not use full saturation like you suggested. Um, Obviously, you need leaves, right? So we'll just kind of have like something that represents leaves, or at least a very full-looking tree with leaves.
Just real quick. Do you mind if I kind of coach you through this real quick?
Sure.
Draw the outline of the tree completely.
Draw the outline of the tree completely.
Yeah. You don't want a hard black line for the base and then color just for the leaves. It's just leaving it kind of unfinished, in my opinion. I'm not trying to be harsh. I'm just trying to.
No, no, no. This is what we're here for. So, you're going to walk me through it. Okay, so you said do the outline completely, but not use a harsh black, right?
You can use. All right, let's go ahead. Let's use a black.
Okay.
Draw a tree, but try to think about not every single detail.
Okay. So let's see. So if we're doing full outline, then I guess we're probably just gonna go up, and then just without worrying about all the extra stuff, as you said. It's gonna come down, and then okay.
Make
So
some grass in there. Make some grass in there.
okay, should I just stay with the same layer, just however I want to approach it, or are we still doing the outline?
Do the outline. At the bottom of the tree,
Uh huh.
you're never seeing just the bottom of the tree. You're always seeing some grass in there.
Right. Okay.
So
So
erase the bottom. Imagine some grass.
okay.
Because, right, you look at a tree and there's always rocks or grass in the way at the bottom, right?
Right.
Yeah, yeah, you got it.
Okay.
All right. So for the leaves, you're not going to draw every single leaf.
Mhm.
If you look at my example that I have up on my Instagram page right here,
Yep.
can you see it?
Uh huh.
I didn't draw every single leaf.
Yeah. You just did like an outline that represents leaves, and then you periodically put leaf-like shapes within the outline.
Right. I suggested to the viewer that there are leaves there.
Right.
I suggested, that's the word. Suggest to the viewer that they are there.
Oh. Where's my? There it is. Boop. So suggest that they are there. Maybe
Yeah.
something like this. Hmm. Yay! I'm getting some necessary teaching step lessons. Hey, let's go. And I'm not gonna lie to you, like even doing this a little bit, this is actually like 1,000 times better than what I was doing initially.
Yeah, a lot of my students get caught up on every single detail,
Mhm.
and you do not have to do that. You do not have to get caught up on every single detail.
Hmm. Just the general outline, and then just imply like the stuff within.
Yeah, you just suggest that it's
Suggest. That's what
there
you said. Hmm.
because the brain is going to know what you're doing,
Mhm.
right? Like a brain is going to look at a tree and say, "Oh, that's a tree." But
Mm.
how do you make the brain say that?
Right.
You suggest the details. You don't add every single detail.
Huh. Well, we learn something new every day.
So with this character that you're drawing right now,
Mhm.
she's got some antennas. What is that?
Oh, so in the universe that in the universe that I made, um, there are creature like humans in the world. Like you can call them mutants, you can call them like anthropomorphic, what have you. So the thing is, Mindy here is a like so in my universe the meta humans, if you will, in the universe they're called saviors. Um, and she is half human, half savior. Her mother is full human, and her father is a savior. And and so she has antennas, she has wings. She's a very bubbly girl. Whereas her dad is kind of serious, and her mom is also kind of serious. But yeah. So her father, his antennas actually have like bulbs at the end, whereas hers don't. It's my way of expressing that like she's a lot younger, and so she's not like fully developed, that sort of thing. Um, and and yeah, I actually made her a long time ago. Made her a long time ago, and it's only recently that I started drawing her again with the little bit of progress that I've made over the years. Um, Nice little tidbit that I can share about her design. Her eyes, her eyes didn't always look like this. This is a combination of me doing a commission, doing like a Sailor Moon commission, and also me watching a lot of Coco Melon. Like an absurdly amount of Coco Melon because my son loves Coco Melon. so
So you
and
have a son.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, very very fun character. She's only been introduced in the story through a photo. But she hasn't been formally introduced yet. But if I work hard enough, I can get to the point where she is introduced, and then yay, you know. So, but
So many characters that you want to throw out there, but you can't because it's not part of the story yet.
right. I've been trying to go about it that way, where it's like I should only put out characters who have already been introduced, because there's a bunch of them. There's a whole bunch. There actually was. Let's see here. Do I have a good one of them? Hold on, real quick, since we're doing a little bit of show and tell. Let me see here. Well, one of them has been introduced. The other one hasn't been introduced yet, and it's Ninjin and Bennett. Ninjin runs a bar that our main character has arrived at, and Bennett is her partner, and and they met at a fighting tournament, whereas Bennett was the fighter and Ninjin was the ring girl. And I actually did a little shuriken short about it. Was there a little meet cute? And so
Second. 1 second.
yes.
We're looking at this photograph. We're looking at this painting.
Mm-hmm.
There's a girl with white hair, and
Mm-hmm.
there's a girl with bunny ears.
Mm-hmm.
Which one is which?
Oh, so from left to right, Ninjin Bennett, or is this a teacher moment here?
No, I'm asking because I want to make sure I'm understanding you.
Oh yes,
So the bunny ears is
Ninjin. Ninjin is Japanese for rabbit, and then Bennett is the one on the right. Sorry, I didn't. I'm sorry, I didn't specify that.
no. I just wanted to make sure that I completely understood where you were coming from.
Yeah, okay. Yes. So, well, yeah, Bennett hasn't shown up yet, but she actually will because I'll be working on that page this week. Well, rather next week. That's when she'll show up.
Awesome.
And but Bennett, or rather Ninjin, has already been shown up in the current episode I'm working on. And the cool thing, and I'm sure you can relate to this. The cool thing about when you're working on characters is when, I guess for you, because this is your characters are based on your experiences, or at the very least stories that people shared about the experiences that you had. Um, for me on my side, it's um when you have this one idea for what you want the character to be and what you want them to do, but as you write the story, it just shifts, and you're like, I kind of like it better if I do this rather than this, and then it's just
No.
like, and that's been the case for like everybody. Like I started this story like a long time ago, and my mindset from I don't even want to say how many years it's been from back then is totally different from what it is now. And so, yeah, that's the gist of it. You know, just wanting to see these characters come to life and do things, fun things. Okay, but
Love it.
uh, so Miss Velise, did you enjoy yourself this evening?
Absolutely.
I am so glad. I want to take this opportunity to thank you for being my guest for this month. This has definitely been a very well, it's been a learning experience actually. A very good welcome learning experience, and I'm sure a lot, not just myself but also the viewers that are tuning in right now, they are more than appreciative of you sharing not just your expertise, but just you yourself as a wonderful person. And and I encourage everyone, if you're on the platforms that are on the screen right now, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, to please give Velise a follow. Check out her work. If you have any questions regarding artwork, feel free to tap into her knowledge, her experiences, because she has a lot to share, and she shares it very willingly with a lot of joy and grace. And you can correct me if I'm mistaken for anything that I'm saying.
But it has like questions about, oh, you know, art, how do I do this? Or what do I do with this program? Or because I work in Photoshop, but I also know other programs. If they have questions, they can totally come to me and ask.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, okay, I have two other questions for you. Okay, so question number one, and I'm gonna make sure I don't forget about question number two, because sometimes I'll forget the second one. But the first question is, what areas in your craft do you feel could use improvement?
Oh man, that's a good question. Um, I feel like you can always work on figure studies better.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you can always work on getting more inspiration from different artists.
Uh-huh.
Like for me, I've kind of settled on the artists I'm inspired by, but you can always and you should always be finding more inspiration from more artists.
Mm-hmm.
You shouldn't just settle for the artist that you're like, okay, this is it.
Right.
You shouldn't do that. And I kind of did that. I've kind of like found the artist that I'm inspired by and settled on it. So I could work on expanding my horizons with more artists.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. That's a good one. And as I expected, I think I might have forgotten my second question, so I'm just gonna wing it. Um, Actually, no, I didn't forget it. I just remembered just now. So do you have any big projects on the horizon for the viewership to look forward to?
Right now, I'm working on a documentary film I'm doing animation for.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I have more information about that coming up. And if people want to follow me or friend me on Facebook, it's Velise Priola Strong. And you can follow me there and find more of that if you want.
I'll do You said Viola Strong, right?
Velise, Velise,
Yep.
Priola, Priola, Strong.
That's a 9, not an O. Whoops, that's a D, not an S. I can't type because I suck. Okay, on Facebook. All right, put it in the chat. Velise Priola Strong on Facebook. You can find her there. Also, you can find her on the designated links. Well, they're not really links. You can't click on them, but you can find them on the links underneath her profile picture. Also, Velise, can you confirm that the information under your photo is correct?
Which photo? Oh, Night and Day Comic. Yes, you can find me at Night and Day Comic on Instagram and Facebook.
Okay. Good. Well, once again, Velise, thank you very much for being my guest tonight. This has been very, very insightful. Very insightful. I'm really glad that you were able to make it here, and I'm especially glad for the information that you have shared with us about yourself and your work. Let's see
Thanks
here.
for having me. I'm sorry I'm such a dork, but I'm really happy that I was on here, and thank you for having me.
And there's nothing wrong with being a dork. It's fine. By the end of the day, dorks are more interesting anyway. So, but look, so with all that being said, as for me, I stream every Tuesday, Friday, and Saturday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, USA. Tuesdays, TJ McAgee3, Elden Ring with the Gents. Fridays, Drawing for Turn, where we do art and Magic the Gathering related content. Saturdays, the Saturday Sluggers, where we do fighting games. If you like what you saw tonight, give your man a follow. If you loved what you saw, give your man a sub. But either way, let the folks know that McAgee3 and Viola Priola Strong is out here putting quality content for each and every one of you. Social media, follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and DeviantArt at McAgee3. I also have a YouTube channel called McAgee3 Productions, where you'll find my off-stream grind, casual crashers, and this particular episode of McAgee3 Meetup, in case you didn't quite catch it when we started. If that's something you're interested in, hit the subscribe button on the YouTube channel and hit the bell icon to get up to date and on the content that comes up there. As you can tell, because it's a duo art stream, I'm also an artist. I do emotes, sub badges, avatars, and banners, but currently I'm working on my original comic book, Blue Ninja, The Story of Nevaeh, which you can find on the DeviantArt page, deviantart.com/McAgee3. Episodes 1 through 5 can be found for your reading pleasure on the DeviantArt page. You can also find my mini-series Shuriken Shorts on there as well, in addition to all my art projects that I've worked on over the years. So check all that stuff out. It is cool. It is awesome. It is great. Ms. Strong, do you have any closing remarks for us on the way out the door?
I want to thank everybody for tuning in and giving this opportunity to me. Thank you so much.
And once again, thank you so much for just coming through and being my guest. Appreciate you so much, and I hope for your continued work to be found online and in other avenues. And I'll probably be DMing you about a hard copy of your comic, because I am interested. So yes, so thank you one and all for spending your precious time with Viola Strong and your man McAgee3. You all spending your precious time with us lets us know that our content is worth your precious time, and your time is like that is very precious to us, so thank you very much. Shout outs on the way out the door, because there are a lot of you, and I need to give you guys some daggone props. Joffrey Gwynn, Beautiful Badassery, Alistair Sinire, apologies if I butchered that, Lucky Khajiit, Layfon, Varsoccer 15, scroll, Spectre Creative, and that is it. Joffrey Gwynn, Alistair Sinire, thank you for the follows. You're loved and appreciated for that. Thank you. Varsoccer, thank you for the raid. You're loved and appreciated for that. And Spectre Creative, thank you for the follow as well. That is gonna do it for tonight, you guys. In terms of what we got going on the next couple of days, for Saturday Sluggers, instead of playing Tekken 8, we're gonna be playing the new DLC of Elden Ring, Shadows of the Erdtree. And then next week, I'll go over the other stuff tomorrow, because this is more about, Velise being here. Again, because I can't express it enough, thank you once again for coming through. That's going to do it for tonight, you guys. I will see you all tomorrow for another edition of Saturday Sluggers. If I don't see you tomorrow, I will see you on Tuesday for another edition of TJ McAgee3 Elden Ring with the Gents. And if for whatever reason I don't see you on Tuesday, I'll see you next week for another edition of Drawing for Turn, because I would say McAgee3 Meetup, but that's monthly. I'll say that for next month. So until then, you all have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Have a wonderful, wonderful Saturday. And in regards to what's going on in the world right now, I will once again leave you all with this: it is always darkest before dawn. So you all have a wonderful, wonderful evening. Bye.